Okay, picture this for a second. You walk into your favorite grocery store, and the shelves are almost completely bare. I mean, we are talking distinct echoes when you walk down the aisle. Only a handful of items left for sale.
Right.
Basic economic supply and demand 101 tells you that those last few items should be sparking a fistfight, right?
Naturally. Yeah, scarcity drives urgency. If there's only one loaf of bread left, the price goes up and it sells in seconds.
Exactly. But what if you walked into that empty store, picked up one of those last remaining items, and the clerk leaned over and whispered, "Oh yeah, that's been sitting there for 4 months. Nobody wants it at that price."
That breaks the model completely. That's a market failure.
And yet, that is exactly what we're looking at today. We are doing a deep dive into the Rose Tree Media School District real estate market in Delaware County, Pennsylvania. It's early 2026, and we are staring at this massive contradiction. We have inventory that is, on paper, non-existent, a huge seller's market, yet homes are sitting unsold for an average of 134 days.
It's a fascinating stalemate. It really, challenges the traditional definitions we use in real estate.
So we're basing this deep dive on a series of weekly market reports. They're from the Sear team, Vincent and Jane Sear.
Right.
And they cover the period from January 9th right through February 6th, 2026. And our mission today is really to figure out, is this a boom that's just taking a breather?
Or is it a stalemate where buyers and sellers are living in two completely different realities? And to answer that, we have to look beyond just the headline price.
Right.
You have to look at the psychology of the market. Because real estate isn't just math. It's feelings with a dollar sign attached.
So let's start with the geography just so everyone is oriented.
Yeah.
We're talking about a very specific, very desirable slice of the Philly suburbs.
Media Borough, Upper Providence, Edgemont, Middletown.
Exactly.
Yeah, and it's a diverse area. You have the dense, walkable borough of Media, which has this very specific urban-suburban vibe.
And then you have the sprawling estates out in Edgemont where, you need a riding mower. But generally, across the board, this is a high-demand, high-value corridor.
High value is, putting it mildly. Let's hit the first big number from the reports because this really sets the stage for the conflict.
Okay.
Throughout January and into that first week of February 2026, the median list price in this district is hovering between $1,050,000 and $11,100,000.
Which is a massive psychological barrier, isn't it? Crossing that seven-figure mark, it changes the buyer pool entirely.
How so?
Well, you aren't just looking for a place to sleep at that point. At that price, you're looking for perfection.
But the reports point out something important about medians, right? It's not that every single house is $1 million.
No, that's a key nuance. The SER team's data shows a massive range. You have entry-level properties, fixer-uppers, probably down around $160,000.
Okay.
And on the other end, you've got luxury estates topping $3.5 million. But the median, the center of gravity where most of the action is happening, is firmly over $1 million. Okay, so we have expensive houses. That's not necessarily shocking for this area, especially given the last few years. But here's where the insight comes in, the thing that makes you scratch your head.
Let me guess. Days on market.
Days on market. This is the single most important metric in these reports right now.
It has to be.
In a hot market, a true seller's market, what do you usually expect for days on market?
I mean, if inventory is under 2 months of supply, you expect 2 weeks, maybe 30 days max. If inventory is low, you expect velocity, you expect speed.
Right. So look at the trend line in these reports. On January 9th, the average time to sell was already pretty high at 121 days.
Which is already a red flag.
But by February 6th, it didn't go down. It actually crept up to 134 days. That is 4.5 months.
That's an eternity in real estate time. Think about the carrying costs for a seller. Taxes, utilities, maintenance. Holding a vacant house for nearly 5 months is just painful.
So how do you reconcile that? We have reports showing less than 50 homes for sale in the entire district some weeks. That's critically low supply.
It is.
How can you have low supply and glacial speed at the same time?
It suggests that the inventory that is there isn't viable for the current buyer pool. It's what we call stale inventory.
Stale inventory?
Yes. It's not that there are no buyers. It's that the buyers who are active are looking at these price tags, which are likely based on the peak appreciation of 2025, and they are simply refusing to engage.
Or on strike.
Effectively, yes. It's a standoff. The report mentions the absorption rate, which is a fancy way of saying how long it would take to sell everything.
And where are we at with that?
We're sitting at about 1.7 to 1.8 months of supply. Historically, anything under 6 months is a seller's market. Anything under 2 months is usually considered a frenzy.
But we aren't seeing a frenzy. We're seeing a waiting game.
Exactly, because the seller's market label only applies to the quantity of homes, not the quality of the deal.
So sellers are looking at the data from 2025.
Hmm.
The reports mention the region saw $1.74 billion with a B in appreciation last year.
Right, and they're trying to capture that. They are pricing their homes for yesterday's market.
And buyers are living in today's reality. Interest rates, inflation, economic anxiety, which we'll get to.
And they simply cannot stretch to meet those 2025 expectations. They're tapping out.
This disconnect is captured perfectly in my favorite data point from this stack, the price reductions.
Oh, this tells the story right here.
It was fascinating to watch week over week. It tells a story of, realization.
It paints a very clear picture of seller capitulation.
So on January 9th, 28% of the listings had price cuts. That's already nearly a third of the market admitting they got the price wrong.
Already high.
But fast forward just 2 weeks to January 23rd, it jumps to 34.6%.
Wow. The pressure is building. You can just see the panic setting in.
And then on January 30th, it peaks, 38.3%. Almost 40% of every single house on the market in Rose Tree Media had to slash its price.
And even though it settled back slightly to 35.4% by February 6th, the signal is undeniable. The market is rejecting the initial asking prices.
The sellers are blinking first.
They have to.
And the SER team actually gives a very specific piece of advice to buyers in these reports. They say, negotiate confidently.
And they put a number on it, right? They specifically point to homes that have been sitting for 60-plus days.
Why 60 days? Is that some kind of magic number?
It's a psychological threshold. If you're a seller, the first 30 days are full of hope. You have showings, maybe an open house, the listing is fresh on the apps.
Right.
By day 45, the phone stops ringing. By day 60, you're looking at another mortgage payment, maybe you've already bought your next place, fear sets in.
And that's when a buyer can walk in and get a deal.
That's the window.
So despite that seller's market label, the report calls this a balanced market for those willing to negotiate.
It's balanced because the leverage has shifted. The seller has the house, sure, but the buyer has the patience.
Yeah.
And right now, patience is the currency that's winning.
But we have to be careful not to paint with too broad a brush, right? The reports do mention that bidding wars aren't totally extinct.
No, they aren't. And this is the danger of looking at just the median. If a turnkey home hits the market in a highly desirable neighborhood.
They mentioned the writings at Providence.
Right, the writings at Providence specifically, and it's priced correctly, it's gone in a weekend.
So the 134-day average is essentially the punishment for overpricing.
Precisely. You either sell in 10 days because you priced it right, or you sit for 134 days because you got greedy. There is very little middle ground in early 2026.
I want to pivot a bit here. We've talked about the numbers, the what. But I want to talk about the why.
Okay.
Why are people even considering paying over $1 million to live in Rose Tree Media in the first place? You can buy a castle for $1 million in other parts of Pennsylvania. What is the pull?
It comes down to what real estate geeks call the lifestyle triad: community, commute, and culture. And Rose Tree Media, it just hits all three.
Okay, let's break that down. Start with the community aspect. The reports talk a lot about Media Borough.
Everybody's hometown.
It sounds like a marketing slogan, but having been there, it actually feels like that.
It is distinct. Most suburbs are just, subdivisions and strip malls. Media has a legitimate downtown. State Street is walkable.
It's a fair trade town.
And you have the trolley running right down the middle of the street.
Which is charming, but also practical.
Very practical. It connects you to the regional rail, which gets you right into Philadelphia. So you have that urban-suburban mix. You can walk to a great restaurant on a Tuesday night without needing an Uber, but you still have a yard and a driveway.
It's a rare combination.
And people pay a premium for that walkability.
And the culture part. The reports mention the art scene.
Yeah, you have the Hedgerow Theatre, which is historic. You have art galleries in Rose Valley. And don't forget the green space. Ridley Creek State Park is right there. It is not a concrete jungle.
But let's be honest, for the $1 million buyer, who is likely a family, the real driver is the schools.
Always. Schools are the anchor for property value. And the reports highlight some breaking news on this.
Yes. 4 Delaware County elementary schools just made the Pennsylvania top list.
And the Rose Tree Media District overall is ranked as a top 5 district in the state. That's gold. When you're buying a home, you aren't just buying bricks, you are buying entry into that school system.
There was one specific detail in the local news section of the reports that I think parents will really latch onto. They talk about full-day kindergarten.
Oh, this is huge.
It was listed as contingent on the PA budget discussions, but
hmm
why is this such a big deal?
If you don't have kids, you might not realize this, but half-day kindergarten is a logistical nightmare for working parents.
Who picks them up at 11:30 in the morning?
Exactly. You need a nanny or aftercare, or you have to leave work. Full-day kindergarten isn't just education, it's childcare. It's an economic benefit worth thousands of dollars a year to a family.
So if the district locks that in.
It makes the area significantly more attractive to young professionals who are the prime demographic for these homes.
So you have this incredibly desirable area, great town, top-tier schools, potential childcare benefits. On paper, prices should be soaring and homes should be flying off the shelves.
Oh, but they aren't.
Which brings us to the elephant in the room, the macroeconomy. The reports include these little snippets of local news that paint a slightly anxious picture. It feels like there are storm clouds hanging over this sunny real estate market.
It's the context that explains the hesitation. You can't analyze a housing market in a vacuum. And the reports specifically reference instability in the local healthcare sector.
This was the bit about Crozer Health.
Yes. There were calls for criminal investigations into Prospect Medical Holdings regarding layoffs at Crozer. Now you have to pause and think about what that means locally.
Crozer is a huge employer.
A major employer. So if you work there, or your spouse works there, or your neighbor works there,
You are not taking on a $1.1 million mortgage right now.
no way. You are hunkering down. When you have layoffs and financial instability in a dominant local industry, that ripples through the entire housing market. It just kills confidence.
And it wasn't just economic storms. The reports mentioned actual physical storms, too.
Recent wind damage from late 2025. It seems minor, but it affects the psychology of buying in a historic area.
How so?
Well, Rose Tree Media, especially places like Wallingford and the Borough, is known for its beautiful, mature trees. But after a season of storms and property damage, those trees start looking like liabilities.
So you look at a 100-year-old oak and you start thinking, is that going to crush my roof?
Exactly. The reports note that this is raising awareness about maintenance costs and insurance premiums. So now the buyer isn't just looking at the $1 million price tag, they are calculating the insurance, the tree removal, the potential layoff.
Now math starts to get scary. It's a wall of worry.
That's a great term for it. Buyers are climbing a wall of worry.
But to be fair, the reports do try to balance the doom and gloom. I actually laughed at the mention of the Delco 10-miler.
That was a nice touch.
Apparently, this race is replacing the Broad Street Run for the local crowd.
It seems so. It starts right there in media. And it signals that despite the economic anxiety, life goes on.
The community is vibrant.
It is. People are out, they're running, they're engaged. That community spirit is an intangible asset that keeps a floor under home values. It reminds people why they want to live there, even if the trees are scary and the hospital is shaky.
So we have the data, the high prices, the slow sales. We have the context, the lifestyle versus the anxiety. Let's talk about the source for a minute.
Right.
We're getting this deep dive from the SEER team. Why should we listen to them?
Credibility in real estate is about volume and longevity. Anyone can sell a house in a boom. But these guys have done nearly 400 transactions in the region since 2009.
Well, they've seen everything.
They've seen the crash, the recovery, the boom, and now this, whatever this is.
And the reports emphasize their hyperlocal knowledge.
Which is so critical. They explicitly say it's not just about the price. It's about knowing which streets flood and where the school bus routes run.
That flooding comment feels very relevant given the storm damage we just talked about.
It is. An algorithm on Zillow can't tell you that the basement on 3rd Street floods every time it rains, but the house on 4th Street is dry. That's the value of a human expert.
There was a testimonial that stood out to me. A client who was looking in Garnet Valley or Westchester, which was super competitive.
Right.
And the sewer team pivoted them and got them settled in 3-4 months.
That's significant because in a market where the average home sits for 134 days, getting settled in 90 days is actually beating the spread. It shows they're finding those negotiation opportunities we talked about.
They aren't letting their clients chase the overpriced stuff.
Exactly. They're finding the sellers who are ready to deal.
So let's bring this all together for the listener. If I'm listening to this and I'm thinking of buying a home in Rose Tree Media right now, what's my playbook?
Your playbook is patience and leverage. Do not be intimidated by the seller's market label. That is a technicality based on low supply. The reality is that time is on your side.
So don't rush into anything.
Don't rush. Watch the days on market. If you see a house you like, let it sit. wait for it to cross that 60-day threshold. That's when the seller's psychology shifts from hope to fear. That is your window to negotiate.
And look for that 35% of listings that have already cut their prices.
Exactly. Let the seller admit they were wrong first.
Now flip the script. What if I'm a seller?
You need a reality check, and you need it fast. The February 6th report uses the word agility. You need to be agile.
Meaning?
Meaning, you cannot price your home based on what your neighbors sold for in May of 2025. That market is gone. If you price at the very top, you are going to sit.
You'll become part of that 134-day statistic.
And the longer you sit, the more stale you look, and the lower the final offer will be.
So it's better to price correctly today than to chase the market down for 4 months.
100%. The market has spoken. It's saying, we love the neighborhood, we love the schools, but we are tapped out on price.
It's interesting because the report mentions that Rose Tree Media saw that $1.74 billion in appreciation in 2025. But trees don't go to the sky, right?
No, and 2026 seems to be the year gravity kicks back in. It is still a prestigious, high-value area. The schools and the lifestyle ensure that. But the frenzy is over. We're in a period of adjustment.
A pricing reality check.
That's the perfect way to put it.
You know, before we wrap up, I have this one thought nagging at me.
Go on.
We have under 50 homes for sale in the entire district.
Right.
In a district with thousands of families. Supply is essentially non-existent.
Right.
And yet, it takes 134 days to sell.
It's the ultimate disconnect.
It suggests that the gap between what sellers think their homes are worth and what buyers can actually afford, with interest rates and the economy being what they are, is just wider than we think.
It raises a very important question. Are we seeing the absolute ceiling of the post-2025 boom?
That's the scary thought.
It is, because a house you can't afford isn't inventory, it's just scenery.
A house you can't afford isn't inventory, it's just scenery. That is a great line to leave it on.
It's the reality for many buyers right now.
So, next time you see that for sale sign in media, don't just look at the price. Look at how long it's been sticking in the lawn. That is where the real story is. Thanks for listening to this deep dive into the Rose Tree Media market.
We'll catch you on the next one.